Hi, Salam Alaikum, sisters and brothers. Sulaiman Rahim here. Welcome. Messenger of the Covenant, breaker of the seven seals. Sisters and brothers, our topic, the Lamb. The Lamb. Who is the Lamb? We can't, can you trust your soul, what you think of as your soul, your eternal soul, to anyone without checking out who they are? Because you're told in these times, there have been many who claimed they was with Jesus, but they was false prophets. And they would deceive many. That means they'd be good at it. They'd be good at it. See, good speakers, magnetic. What's the other word they use? Um, Charismatic. And said they would deceive many. Are you part of that group? Because there's many charismatic out there. I mean, you got T.J. Jakes, he's charismatic. Oh man, he's charismatic. How many followers he got? Millions, maybe. You got Farrakhan, he's charismatic. He's a good speaker. See? Creflo Dollar. You name them, right? They're magnetic, see? Charismatic. And you warned about them, see? But it says the Lamb wouldn't be like that. He would not be charismatic. He would not be a good speaker. See? He'd be the one that you reject. You wouldn't like him. It's, brothers and sisters, easy to figure out what's going on now. The light switches are everywhere. All you got to do is flip one of them. And we're going to go through that. What's this Lamb? See? Because you deceive all these charismatic people that telling you these things and you're listening to them and you're being drawn into it. And it warned you. It says, it talks about wolves in sheep clothing. Those are demons. See? Because the wolves, we understand who the wolves are, right? Those are the ones been oppressing us, the devils, been oppressing us for 20 years. But it says they will be in sheep clothing. Well, we the sheep. Brothers and sisters, can't you put this together? We're the sheep and they're the wolves. That means they look like us. They'll talk like us. They'll walk like us. That's their black-faced children. It's right there, brothers and sisters. We're the sheep. They tell you we're the sheep, and they're the wolves. They're the ones been attacking us and eating us and destroying us and raping us for 400 years. It says the devil would go out seeking who he could steal, kill, steal, and destroy. Steal, kill, and destroy. How did America come to being? Wasn't it stolen? Didn't they kill our inhabitants? Didn't they destroy us? Come on, brothers and sisters. Right? It's clear. See, it's not clear to you if you're a devil or you're a demon. It may be clear, but you're not going to respond to it because it's not going to be your response. It will, cannot be in a positive way because it's against you. This message is against devils and demons. There's no reconciliation with them. There's no restoration of them, right? There's no what you call it um, um, repentance for them. See, because their time is over. They only had 6,000 years to roam, and the demons only had 600 years, right, to roam. And they've been roaming this planet for 600 years, and they've been doing a lot of damage. And in the black community, is suffering the worst. Read a Mark, because half the population of the black community, according to AL-INJIL, are demons. The whole purpose is to destroy you, confuse you, and to keep you here with massa, right, to your destruction. But again, the Lamb. See, you wouldn't like him. So we're going to go into this Lamb and see what the Bible says about the Lamb. See? Because you wouldn't like him. But he's the one that's here for you. He's the one come here to save you. He's the one that's going to redeem you. See? But you ain't going to like him because he's not charismatic. Just like you didn't like Elijah, he'd be a styled after Elijah because you didn't like him either. See, he wasn't a good talker either. He wasn't charismatic either. You ain't like him. And said you'd be the same attitude towards the Lamb or the Son of Man, Sut Oman. You'd be the same attitude towards him. He said he would suffer similar to the way Elijah suffered. So Elijah was like a forerunner, right, of what the Lamb would be like. Because you see, Elijah, that's Moses, and Joshua, they're together. But you got that little, that little dead villain right in the middle, Aaron. See, they don't want to talk about Aaron. Let's go into this stuff. Let's go into this. Okay. See, brothers and sisters, you don't understand about breaking the seals. First one says no one could do it. So that has to be a clear sign. It's like a badge. It's like a badge, right? See, you say, hey, you please show me your badge. They can't show you the badge. You say, get the hell out of here. And so you're supposed to recognize the Suleiman or the Lamb or Jesus or Joshua by the fact they broke the seals because no one could do it but them. But you're not asking that question. You're not asking them how they broke the seals. You don't ask them that question. So in other words, please knock on your door, and you don't ask the question. They come in and they rape you. But you never ask them. Let's show their badge. They say, oh, I'm the police. Oh, so they say, oh, come on in. See, then they rob you and everything else. See, because you never asked to show their badge, and you're not asking these people, did you break the seals? You're supposed to ask, because they can't. They don't tell you they don't say they broke it, because they haven't, because they would have to prove it. And the thing is that you're not supposed to pay attention to them unless they have, because that's the Lamb. That's the person you're supposed to pay attention to, the one that's broke the seals. See, there are many signs that you're supposed. You also represent the sign of Jonah, but you're not asking these questions. You're just going along with what these people say, and you're putting your soul in jeopardy because you end up in hell right alongside them. And you would say, damn, how come I didn't ask? All you had to do is ask. The scripture was clear. You claim you're following the scriptures, but most of you are idolaters because you don't care what they're saying. It's like idolaters. They have to worship statues. They don't care what the statues are saying. They like the image. Like the image. Oh, that's Mary. That's Joseph. That's Jesus. They ain't saying anything because you don't care what they're saying, whether they say anything or not. You just like the image, like Farrakhan. You like his image. Nothing he says makes any sense. He's totally against everything Elijah Muhammad taught. Totally. But they say, oh, he never deviates from Elijah Muhammad's message. You don't even have to be a follower of Elijah Muhammad. You don't have to even know Elijah Muhammad like I did. I knew Elijah Muhammad for 4 years. I was with him for 4 years. You don't have to know that. You know that Farrakhan is not teaching Elijah Muhammad's teaching. See, they ain't doing it. It's not even close. He claims that he plays Elijah Muhammad's music, but he ain't giving Elijah Muhammad's lyrics. So breaking the seals, that was very stressful. And said only one person could do it. And brothers and sisters, the person that does it, he will tell you, it wasn't easy. It was not easy. That's why no one could do it but him. He said he was slain by the foundation of the earth. The elder says he was crying because no one could be found worthy to do it. Not in the heavens or earth or under the earth. Even the God couldn't do it. No one could do it. You see, that God that you see there is not the God is Satan sitting on the throne. And they had the book. The Europeans had the book, but they didn't understand it. It says no one in heavens, earth, or on earth. I mean, that includes everybody, the God and everybody. But they had the book, but they couldn't figure it out. You see, that one sitting on the throne is not Jesus. It's not God. See, the Lamb is Jesus, but he's the one that takes it from him and he breaks it. And it was not easy. It looked like he was slain from the foundation of the earth. It was not easy to break those seals. See, some of you think, oh man, he's just good, he's smart, he's able to do it. No, brothers and sisters, I may be good at breaking puzzles, but that was not easy. It took everything out of me to do that. And every time I go in and look in different verses and the map out to the angel. That is hard. That is difficult. It takes a lot out of me. That's why my wife was on my case. Said, why don't you slow down? Because this stuff is killing you. It's breaking your body down. And it is. But I must continue. That's why he said he was a sacrificial lamb. Because he sacrificed his life. Because that's what it took to break these seals. It's not easy. Every time I go and map something, it takes something out of me. You may think, oh man, he just got that stuff. I told you, don't you pay attention? It took me 30 years to get this far. 30 years of studying 22 chapters. And I told you, I haven't broke down the whole Bible yet. I mean, that'd be another 30 years. It took me 30 years to get this far. That means that's how hard it is. And I've been studying 24/7, 365. Anybody that knows me in the last 30 years, that's all I talk about, it's all I do. Right? Even when I had my own business, that's all I did. Doing lunch break, whatever. That's all I did. Even when I was working, I was thinking about this all the time. Some of these things in his verses, it took me years to figure out. Early years to figure out because it was so difficult. So some of you think, oh man, he just. Well, why would it take me 30 years to get this far if it was so easy to do? And I haven't finished it all yet. I've mastered the AL-INJIL, but I still haven't broke down the whole Bible. And I'm not going. The way things are going, it's not going to happen before we get to home. Otherwise, I just have to stop cold talking to you and concentrate on that 100%. And every time I go out and look at a new verse, that's why I was so excited when we had this sister Fatima. She broke down one. I said, "Wow!" I mean, she don't even understand how impressed I was. And she doesn't understand how impressed I was because that was amazing. See, because that tells me that this younger generation out here. Remember, Joshua, they got rid of the old generation by walking around in the wilderness 40 years. That's what it is under Pharaoh. See, they had to get rid of them because their mind, they stuck in the gravitational vortex. They couldn't get out. They're stuck in it. They couldn't get out. They couldn't break loose. So we just walk around the desert, walk around the wilderness 40 years to get rid of all of them. See, because we couldn't take them in the promised land like that. You can't bring that Negro stuff in the promised land. It's not happening. We leave all that stuff behind. And they still they couldn't get out of them. They couldn't get that niggertude. I just couldn't do it. So we had to walk around the wilderness 40 years, and we used that Farrakhan as a lightning rod to draw those people. So it's easy to recognize them and all the demons too. See? Because we can't allow that to go. See? But the younger generation, those are the ones that go out to Joshua, like this to Fatima, and so they're the younger generation. And they're going to take it to the next level, above me. That's what you want. The Father wants his children to be better than him. He don't want to be above his children. His hope and prayer and hope, right? And his desire is his children to be greater than him. And that spark, that really impressed me. But I had looked at that verse that she saw. I looked at it. I said, oh man, I think it's going to take me a while to figure that one out. Because I look at a lot of stuff and say, okay, well, I put kind of characterize things. And I said, well, let me take this verse out. Well, that's a little difficult. I'll do this one, whatever, right? And I get back to that one. That was one of the ones I would get back to. I looked at it, I didn't know understand what it meant at the time. And actually, it was kind of strange because that was one I had put on my list to check out, not right away, but, in the near future. And bam, she broke that thing down so clear. She's the only one that I know, right? Another sister came close. She had little sisters for me, but she only one that's ever broke, aside myself, she's the only one that ever broke any verse. Only one ever broke any verse in the AL-INJIL. Broke it down by herself. That is saying a lot. I told you, these sisters, you keep putting these sisters down. I keep telling you. The reason why you don't see these sisters because you keep putting a veil over them. If you put a veil over something, you can't see it. And I'm removing the veil. See, I'm removing the veil. Because these sisters are powerful. They're powerful as you are, just in a different way. But because you don't recognize it, you put a veil over it and smother it. Then you wonder, oh man, they don't know anything. Well, if you don't teach them, if you deny them education, how the hell are they gonna know anything? See, it's counterproductive. I mean, it's like a tiger chasing his tail. Anyway, that was beautiful. But breaking these seals is stressful. And then keep it in your mind. Keep all these things together in your mind. See, because remember, all this stuff I've done over 30 years, I keep that stuff in my mind. Keep it all together. Connect all the dots. And then I got the added problem of once I get it, is explain it to you, put it in a way to explain to you. I mean, brothers and sisters, you think this was easy? That's why I said it was slain from the foundation of the earth, it looked like, because no one's ever went under this kind of stress. No one's ever had to go under this kind of stress to figure this stuff out. It's like I said, you know, it's a great burden that was put on no one else ever, because he had to be able, right, to prepare his people for war, for a time of unprecedented trouble. And we can't play games. We can't play games with our people. If you go into war, you got to be hard on your people. If you want them to survive the war, you can't talk nice and play games with them because they're gonna get bound and get their ass kicked, destroyed. You gotta be hard and tough. Like you see the story about the Marines, how they hard and hard. Yeah, but we gotta be harder than that. But they want you to be nice and pliant and easygoing, and then they get their ass kicked and then they get mad at you. No, I'm not accepting anybody but pure warriors. Anyway, let's move on, brothers and sisters. Now here, see now we're talking about Suleiman here, the Son of Man. That's what Son of Man comes from. It's a you think it's a title, but it's Son Suleiman, Son of Man. It's a play on words because the Son of Man was supposed to be Solomon, right? Because Son of Man, right? Solomon was supposed to be David's son. He's supposed to be the wisest man ever lived, right? And David is the God. See, I mean, I'm not going to go into details, but that could confuse you at this point. But I'm not going to go into detail about that. But anyway, um, it tells you that okay, Jesus was David's son. See, but David called him Lord, and Jesus said, well, how is that? How is that? And he don't explain. He said, how is that? You see, you understand? So therefore, um, uh, if, uh, if Jesus is David's son, what was David's son's name? His name was Solomon. Suleiman, that's where it comes from. Anyway, I'm not going to dwell on that here. But let's read this. Who has believed our report, and to whom is the arm of the Lord revealed? So you're talking about who is the arm of that? Arm is that's his. He's going to tear a nation down with his right arm. And so who's revealed? Who's going to know it? Because remember, that's the stone that's going to destroy all the nations. That's that little stone in Daniel that's going to crush all the nations. But who was it to reveal? Because only one person got it. And that's the one that broke the 7 seals, the messenger of the covenant. But he shall grow up before him as a tender plant. See, we're talking about this is the God talking. We shall grow up before him as a tender plant. That means that he's present, God is present, Master Muhammad is present, and he's grown up during his time of Master Muhammad, right? And as a root out of dry ground. What do you mean by that? See? In other words, if a ground is dry, that means there's no nourishment, there's nothing there. So, and that's where Suleiman, because he had no parents, he had nothing. He had no support group, no relatives, nothing. See? We shall grow up before him as a tender plant. You understand? He had no strength or anything, he was just a child. But he had no support. The ground was dry. He was by himself. That's what it's saying. Was that Farrakhan? Farrakhan wasn't an orphan. His father was the devil, which disqualifies him 100% if you understand by biology, but you still love him anyway. How in the hell can a devil be out anointed? Right? He's distracted. We should be praising Dr. Yakub, then shouldn't you? But that shall grow up before up as a tender plant and as a root out of dry ground. The ground is dry. That means you're getting nourishment. It's not getting no water or anything from it. But he's tender, right? So he's vulnerable. He's all by himself, right? See? Then remember, this is a story about you trying to recognize the lamb now. See, because you should be asking these questions, looking at this, because you're not going to love him. See, and he has no form, no color. He wasn't a handsome guy like Farrakhan. Oh, so Farrakhan, he's got this, all this stuff, right? See, and so he said you wouldn't be like that. See, he wouldn't be a handsome guy, pretty guy. You understand? I'm charismatic, magnetic. He wouldn't be that way. See? And when you shall see him, there's no beauty that we shall desire. And that means he's a healthy person. And so he don't have any the beauty of youth. By the time you see him, he's not going to be a youthful person by the time you see him. See? So when I said, when you shall see him, when he come manifest, well, he's an elder person. He has no beauty. You should desire him. He's not even saying, oh man, he's a cute man. I want him. He's sexy. He ain't going to be like that. But that's where you see that Farrakhan and them clowns. You see? That's disqualifies all those verses right here disqualify all those clowns right away. But you don't pay attention to it. So I'm explaining this stuff so you won't have no excuse. He is despised and rejected of men. Is Farrakhan despised? No, look all the followers he got. T.J. look all the followers he got. Look at Trevor, all these clowns. They got thousands of followers. They're not despised and rejected. You see, I mean, everybody in general is despised and rejected about people that are against them. I mean, there's people against Farrakhan. There's people against T.J. that don't agree with him. There's people against Biden. Don't agree with him. Some love him. But they've been Pacific. That means he in general nobody just like him. He just disliked. That's a quality. That's different. Because you have your friends, you have your enemies, but this is a quality that he had. See? Because even Farrakhan's enemies, right? See, they might consider him handsome or whatever. See, but this person, he is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows and acquainted with grief. And we hid, as it were, faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. And we pay attention to him. But that's the Lamb. That's the Lamb. But you despise him, but you love Farrakhan. And you love T.J. You love Jeff O'Donnell and all those other clowns. You love them, but you would despise this one. See? Because he wasn't charismatic, he wasn't magnetic, he wasn't pretty and handsome, he wasn't sexy. So you're going to despise him. Why? You claim you love him, but you're going to despise him. So we're trying to get you to see what it is we're talking about here, who the Lamb is. Because you ain't answering these questions. And like I said, are you going to put your mortal soul on a mistake like that? In other words, you're going to put your mortal soul in the hands of people in wolves and sheep clothing? See? Not asking any questions. Because this is what this is about. It's about the truth, about your life. About your life and your death. About your family. See, they claim this is the Jesus of 2,000 years ago. See, they got all kinds of ways to get around things, right? Surely he has borne our grief and carried our sorrows. Yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted. Oh man, that dude's crazy. He's afflicted. Man, look at all this stuff. He talks about well, silly hat, right? And he's talking all this stuff, man, about demons dividing black people up, right? He's against Farrakhan. He's against everybody. You see, he's talking about man. He called white folks devils, and oh man, he's with that. He's with Elijah. And, he's crazy. He's a crazy guy. See, sure, he bore our grief and carried our sorrows. See, because he was dedicated. See, And he suffered because he saw you suffering. And that made him suffer. Because that's his whole job, to stop you from suffering. So he was suffering. Yeah, yes, he was suffering because of you was suffering. See, because he identified with you. It's like somebody, if somebody's sick and you desperately try to make them well, you suffering too because you want to make them well, right? And so that's why it says he bore our griefs and carried our sorrows. See? That's what it means there. So he's suffering right along with you because he's trying to get you well. You see? See? Yet we did esteem him stricken. In other words, man, this dude is crazy, man. You know, he's crazy. He's nuts. He's smitten by God. See? He touched by God, man. See? And he has all kinds of problems. See, he doesn't have any family. He lost his family. He lost everything. All he does is go out here trying to teach people, oh man, guys, we're crazy. Man, he got American dream, man. He ain't got nothing. All he do is talk that old stuff about some angel. See, he don't have anything. His family don't care about him. Nobody cares about him. He don't have any friends. That's what he's saying. God struck him. See, he don't have any friends. He had no family. He had nothing. And that's what it says. So see, Lamb would be like an orphan. He would have no family, no friends, anything. He would grow up, like I said, he would grow up like a root in dry land. So he had nothing. And so they would deem him, oh man, see, he don't have nothing. He's not successful. He don't have nothing. All he does is talk that old angel stuff. See? He ain't going to church. He ain't with Jesus. They say, that's affliction. He's afflicted. See, God's punishing him because he won't come around. See? But he was wounded for our transgressions, and he was buried bruised for our iniquities. See? He was wounded for your transgressions because you was the one that was causing the wounds. Because you was against him and causing problems and lying about him and using them. When I had my business, right? I would talk to black folks and I ended up losing the contract because they run back and tell masters. It happened all the time. I said, oh man, he don't like white people. You see, he's one of them. He like Muhammad people, one of them black Muslims know that. They would do. See? But they recognize the names right away when they got suspicious and they want to make some points with master. See? Master, don't you know who that is? That's one of them black Muslims. And I had my own business contract business, and I very seldom was able to renew a contract, even though they told me, man, I did a fantastic job. But they still wanted to keep me around because the niggas was doing that kind of stuff, right? Because he was wounded for our transgression. He was bruised for our iniquities. See? Because they was out there doing all kinds of wicked stuff and everything else, right? See? And so he was bruised for it because they was out there doing that stuff, lying on him and everything else. See? He was thrown into jail and everything else because of their BS, right? See? And, but he was bruised for our iniquities. The chastised peace was upon him. What do you mean the chastisement of your peace? See? Because right now you're not at peace. You're suffering. See? And that's upon him. He's trying to stop your suffering. He's trying to get you home to peace in your promised land. That's what he's trying to do. See? That's the burden on him. To chastise our peace. To get you home. That's his burden. That's his mission. And you're totally resistant to it. See? So, but the burden that was on him. And with his stripes, we were healed because he kept on no matter what. He kept on, took everything that you threw at him, right? You cursed him, you beat him, right? You lied on him, you had him thrown in prison, and you did all kinds of stuff to him, right? See? But yet still, right? He was healed because he endured all of it. He just kept on going. He kept on loving you. He kept on working for you. He kept on fighting. He kept on pushing this message no matter what. Even sick. It's like I said, I've just been in the hospital 2 times since Christmas. Twice. Almost died in both cases. And I'm still recovering. They got those kind of medications. I got this real bad blood clot. They said that could break loose. It did break loose while I'm coughing. It's not as bad as it was before. I'm coughing a lot. Because they said the blood clot got so bad it got into my lungs. They said it was on the way to the heart, and that would have been the end of me. See, and I'm still recovering. And as soon as I got to, as soon as I was able to get to a computer, that's what I'm doing, brothers and sisters. And I'm not asking you for a dime. So all these charismatic people, the wolves in sheep clothing, see, they parasites. They're living off of you. That said, beware of them. See, because you're paying for their charisma. You're paying for their handsomeness. You're paying for their magnetic. You understand? Their good speech. You're paying for that. See, they demand money for that. That shows, right, that they're about money. I'm gonna ask you for a dime and never have and never will. See, and all, and we, and all, and see, he called you to be healed because if we wasn't kept, if he didn't sacrifice himself like he did, as he doing, you would never be healed because he gonna get you back home. See, always like sheep that go on the straight. So you, oh man, you don't pay attention to him. We've turned everyone his own way. See, they don't want to listen to him. I mean, I'm doing my own thing. I'm independent, man. I'm individual. And the Lord has laid upon the iniquity of us all. That means because you ain't, he's got to suffer all of this. You got to suffer all your ignorance, your resistance. You got to suffer because he wouldn't have to suffer if he wasn't trying to heal you. It's like trying to save somebody that's drowning, right? See? They can cause you to be drowned because they're fighting everything else. And the only reason why you might end up being drowned because you're trying to save them. And they don't realize that they could cause you to be drowned themselves, drowned in the process because they're fighting. You see how people, they drowning, so they're fighting. That's what it's talking about. See? See? The Lord has laid upon the iniquity of us all. Because he got to deal. In other words, it's like being thrown in a cesspool or a pig pen. Right? Okay, now you in here because you suffering all that there because you got to clean it up. If you didn't care about it, you wouldn't get in there. So if he didn't care about you, right, see, then he wouldn't have to suffer this. Right? Because all your hard looks, nigga, get out of here, your curses and everything about him, your lies and everything you're doing to him, and all the stuff you're doing, he wouldn't have to suffer that if he just backed off. It's your resistance that's causing all this problem for him. Because he's dedicated to healing you, to getting you back home. Okay? So if he wasn't dedicated to getting you back home, he wouldn't be suffering this. That's what it's trying to tell you. Okay? And telling you the suffering is great. Because he's trying to save you and you totally resist and you hate him. You despise him and you hate him. But yet still he's giving all. And he's not stopping to get you home because he loves you so much. But you hate him, you despise him. That's the Lamb. See? They ain't Farrakhan. They ain't Silas. They ain't T.A. Jakes. See? They living off you. They enjoying their life. They got mansions and everything else. See? They're not suffering. See? He was oppressed and he was afflicted. Yet he opened out his mouth. You understand? So he didn't complain. You don't hear me complaining. You never hear me complain. I give you information. I tell you about my situation. But you don't hear me complaining. Oh, man, I'm tired of y'all. I'm tired of doing this, man. I've said, I didn't, I did say recently I hated this job. But I was talking about in the sense of, because I'm just a person I'm not a people person. See, that's part I hate about it. You understand? Because that is extremely difficult for me. I've always been, growing all my life, I was never a people person. And then this requires me to be a people person. And that's almost impossible with me. That's my only complaint, right? But he said, yet he opened his mouth. I'm not complaining about the job itself, about getting you back home and all the suffering and everything. I'm not complaining about that. I never complained about it one time. Oh man, I gotta keep doing these 30 years, man, I'm tired of y'all, man, and y'all won't listen to me. And because I tell people that claim to be standing with me, I said, you got to stop that. You got to stop that negativity. They ain't listening to you. Because we ain't, that's not what it's about. We laying seeds right now. We're trying to prepare the ground for when time of unprecedented trouble comes. They'll have food to eat. They'll understand. See, we got to be patient. And I'm not a patient person. We got to be patient. We got to keep working, putting this information out there. See? Because they think, oh man, how can nobody understand this stuff? I said, they're not going to understand it. The scripture said they're not going to understand it. It said they're going to be totally opposed to me up until the time of the nation, the nation is born. They're going to be totally opposed. And I know that. And so if you want to stand beside me, then you got to accept that. They're not going to listen to you. If they don't listen to me, they're not going to listen to you either. So if you expect to turn around immediately, then you're in the wrong place. Because it's going to take 30 years. See, I mean, I had a lot of people along the way, you understand? They claimed to be with me, but when they realized it was going to be like 20 years in the future, 15 years in the future, man, they were gone. See? So he didn't complain about it. Nobody's ever seen me complain. So that one statement I said, right? I said, I hate because I hate to have to deal with people. That's what I'm talking about. Right? That's just my nature. That's not a complaint about this job. That's just me. I'm a hermit by nature. Right? And that's something very difficult for me to do. I had, over the years, I'm working on it. I'm working on my people skills. I don't have them. I never had them. They don't come naturally to me. When I was growing up, I spend more time at the library than being around hanging out. That's just my nature. I said, well, why you pick me? I'm not a people person like Farrakhan and Elijah Muhammad was a people person. I'm not. Yet he opened not his mouth. He is brought as a lamb to slaughter, as sheep before the shear is dumb, so he opened not his mouth. See? It's like he just keep on going. So he doesn't see any benefit. It's 30 years and nobody's listening. And he said, what's wrong with that guy? Is he crazy? He keep talking that same old BS for 30 years. Ain't nobody paying attention to him. What, just stupid? He just keep on going like, is he dumb? He doesn't realize nobody's paying attention to him. He's going on like he's on drugs or something. He's just high, happy. You think he have 1 million followers or something. And he's going on like it ain't nothing happening. And he's going on, ain't nobody listening to him, and people talking about him and everything. He's going like it ain't nothing happening. That's what's talking about right here. Like he's dumb. I mean, is that so stupid? Nobody's paying attention to him, but he keep on going. That's what's talking about there, brothers and sisters. See? See? Now here's another one. He was taken a prisoner from judgment. Who shall declare who shall declare his generation? You see. And Jesus, right? 2,000 years ago was never imprisoned. He was crucified, but he wasn't in prison. See? And was Farrakhan ever in prison? Was Silas ever in prison? I don't know about TJ. Was they ever in prison? Farrakhan definitely never been in any prison. But he claims he's Suleiman. He claims he's a lamb. He make all these claims, but none of those claims fit him. See, because he's an alteration master. When you get a suit and you put it off the rack, you got to make alterations and make it fit. See, because scriptures fit Suleiman tailor made. It's like you put it on, just fit him exactly, man. It's a perfect fit. You don't need alterations. But you put it on Farrakhan, man, you got to be altered. You be doing alteration all day and all night because you can't make it fit him. It just don't fit him. Only one fit him is Aaron and Peter and all these people that was against Jesus. Those son of perdition, they fit him perfectly. His suits fit him perfectly. But he don't like those suits. So he want to put on a suit of Suleiman and it just don't fit him. He was never in prison. See? And who shall declare his generation? He wasn't saying he was cut off. Well, he was cut off from the land of living. But transgressed my people. Was he stricken? What do you mean cut off from the land of living? Okay, what's the normal life, right? You have family, you have children, you have mother and father, right? And that's the normal. That's what makes up life. That's the living. That's the normal living for most people, right? You have relatives, He had friends. He had none of that. None. He had no friends. He had no relatives. He had children, but they all hated him. You read Job, his children turned against him. He was cut off from everything, but he kept on going. He had nothing to support him. Like I say, he's like a root on a dry land. He had nothing to support him. Nothing. He had no followers or anything. Elijah Muhammad had plenty of followers to support him, but he had nothing to support him. He was cut off from the land of the living. He didn't live a normal life like anybody else. Everybody got some kind of life out, even if they got some, got brothers or sisters or something, right? Some kind of support. He has nothing, zero. And that's my case. I have nothing. I do have my wife, right? But I have nothing. Everything is gone. But yet still, I'm not stopping. I'm not slowing down one bit. And you don't see me complaining. You don't see me upset. You don't see me drool. You wouldn't even know this is my background if you weren't. I didn't tell you. You wouldn't even know this was happening to me, my experience, if I did not tell you. There's nothing that you can see that would give you that impression that that's my background. See, for the transgression of my people was he stricken. Because of all your resistance and everything, that's causing them all the problems. Because you hate them, you reject them, you tell lies on them, you turn his family against them. I've been dealing with demons. I had been previous marriage, right? Demon. Turn my children against me and everything else. See? And he made his grave with the wicked. I'm talking about he's dead because you understand, you got to understand it. You think he's not going to die and come back. See? They made his grave, in other words, he's going to die with the wicked. See? And with the rich is his death, because he had done no violence. He's laying seat in his mouth. See? They think, oh man, he's a wicked person. They claim he's wicked. See? See? And somehow they're saying he's getting rich off the people. I ain't asking anybody for anything. These are lies they're telling. Because he had done no violence. In other words, there's lies on him. Neither was any deceit in his mouth. He wasn't lying about anything. There was no deceit in his mouth. He was telling the truth, but they hate him for it. They say, man, he was ripping off the people, man, and he's a wicked man. He's going to hell. And I ain't asking anybody for a dime. You can't even give me any money because you wouldn't know how to do it. Even the people that work with me, they couldn't give me any money because they wouldn't know how to do it. They don't know my address. They don't know how to give me anything. You understand? Because I don't want anybody to give me anything. See, I sustain myself. You understand? See? So they were just lying on him because he had done no violence, neither any deceit in his mouth. He wasn't a liar. Farrakhan's a big liar. This monster prove he's a liar. I can show you right now. If you ask me, I can show you lie after lie after lie after lie after lie. For instance, he says, we ain't going nowhere. Elijah Muhammad, he claims that's Elijah Muhammad's teaching. We have Elijah Muhammad on tape, not some transcript, on tape saying, we would be fools to stay here in the land of our imprisonment. But Farrakhan said, oh man, we ain't going nowhere. See. Anyway, I'm going to waste time with that clown. Yet it pleased the Lord to bruise him. He had put him to grief. You understand? See? What does that mean? It's like when you sacrifice a lamb. Because it pleased the Lord to let this happen to him. See? Because he knew the end result was going to be. Because he's going to be the one going to save his people. Because that's sacrifice, right? See? Because that's what the Lord's joy, Master Muhammad's right, his pleasure is to save his people, to bring his people home. And so Suleiman is the one that's going to do that, right? So it's pleasing to the Lord to see him doing these things, right? It's pleasing to the Lord to see him doing these things. Understand? Because he knows the end result. I mean, I hope you understand that one. See? See? When thou shalt make his soul an offering for sin, he shall see his seed. That means he wasn't dead. See, that's got to be that. Because he didn't die and come back. Because he'll see his seed. If he's dead, how are you going to see his seed? And he shall prolong his days. See there? He's still going to be alive. And the pleasure of the Lord will prosper in his hands. So he's going to accomplish his mission. He's going to accomplish it. Right? But after, right, it says he make his soul offering for sin. After he's totally wiped out. In other words, he done gave it all. When he's giving it all, he's giving his total, so everything, and nothing left, right? Then that's when everything's going to turn around. When he's giving it all, he has nothing else to give. He's totally, right? See? In other words, another way of looking at it is that he turned it around. Remember? Because in other words, the sin was alleviated, right? Because he suffered. He gave all his life to turn it around. Is that the way of saying it? Um, uh, in other words, he gave everything until near death. And because he did that, right, that stopped his. Remember, because he said he would save his people from sin. That's what it took. It took him giving his life, right? Everything. Mind, soul, everything, totally, right? It turns people away from sin, right? Self-imposed injury deprivation, right? Get them back home. Get them out of this gravitational vortex. So it took everything, it sold everything. There wasn't nothing left to give. He gave it all. That's what it's talking about. And then once he's done that, and he's got his people back home and everything, right? Then he will see his seed. I mean, he's going to have children, right? He will long his days. He will live longer, right? And the pleasure of the Lord be in his hand. And be going to prosper. That's the new nation. He'll prosper. See? But he has to give his soul. He has to give it all. That's he's going to suffer to the maximum, more than anybody ever suffered ever before. He's going to suffer all of it. Every bit, there's everything that he can possibly suffer. He's going to suffer until there's nothing left. Until he's at the point of death. And I came pretty close to that a few weeks ago. I was at the point of death. I called out the Master by Muhammad. I was gone. I was about 2 breaths away from death. And I said, Master Muhammad, I need your help. I never called on him before, and he answered. Because I was just 2 breaths away from death. See, I still got some energy left, but it says before. It says, and so in other words, I'm at that point what it's talking about here, because I'm totally exhausted. My wife keeps telling me, "Why don't you slow down?" I've spent. I'm just giving away. I got some left, but not much. See, I said they got my I never been on medication before. They got my medication, and just on a blood thinner, because they said I got this blood clots in my lungs. It almost went to my heart. I got this extreme blood clot in my leg. My legs swole up real big and everything, right? So I'm near the point they talk about here, where I have nothing else to give. That's why I said, you make a soul offering for sin. See, that's what it's talking about. Now, no, he's near death. He didn't die. He shall see the travail of the soul, and shall be satisfied. In other words, once it's over, he ain't gonna be happy doing it. But once it's over and he see, you understand, what his suffering did, I saved his people. Then he say, man, he ain't saying, I'm not saying it right now. I wouldn't want to go through this again forever. I think about women giving babies, and I said, man, I know that must be hard, but oof. But it says it's like childbirth, because what it is he actually giving birth to this nation, right? So it's like he's in labor, right? Some women die in labor, and some women come close to death in labor, and that's what it says. It's going to have to. He's in labor, and he's going to come almost to death to produce this nation. That's what it's talking about. But then once the baby is born, right, the mother forgets all that pain, and then she's enjoyed the baby. She forgets all the pain, but now she's got the baby, she's hugging the baby. She forget all the pain and everything, but now she's so happy because she loved that baby. That's what it's talking about. When he sees the travail soul, he shall be satisfied, right? Because he see that's what it took. Because this nation not coming together by itself. I keep telling you that. We have to make things happen. We transform energy from one form to another. This has to Somebody has to make this happen. And his lamb is the one that's given the job to make it happen. And he has to give everything. He has to give it all. He has to give it all to make this happen. See? And so he's the one that makes it happen. That's why Muhammad watches. He's like the father, right? But the mother, that's the one that has to suffer the labor. Not the father. He watched. Right? He might pass out, but she's the one that's suffering, and she's the one that delivered the child. And it's a father. It's that type of relationship. It's a husband and wife type of relationship here, right? Because I'm the one that has to give birth to this nation. See, that's why I'm sitting by. He's been impregnated it, right? But I'm the one that have to give birth to it. See, and he shall be satisfied by his knowledge. Shall my righteous servants justify many, and he shall bear their iniquities. This gets back to saying, I justify my people. It's just like for the female friends, I say, I'm not going to judge them because I have knowledge. I'm not going to judge these sisters. I'm not going to take them to judgment. That's what it's talking about here, right? It's by his knowledge, because I understand who they are. They're warriors. They suffered for 40 years. They was the one that was warriors. So by his knowledge, right, he shall justify. My righteous servant shall justify many. I'm justifying them. I'm not condemning them. I'm going to justify them. I said, man, you leave them sisters alone. Yeah, they mad. They should be mad. Oh man, sister, she mad. She's angry. So what? She should be mad and angry. You weren't protecting her. That's what it's talking about. You understand? You justify many, but he shall bear their iniquities. Oh yeah, I told you. I said I justify women, but I've been cutting kids hell from women all my life. I got scars from females all my life. Most of it's my problem myself because I wasn't out there trying to scope them and bend them, see if they was okay. Because I was so concentrated on the Bible and before I even got to the injury, I was always that kind of person, knowledge. So I wasn't. I mean, I had desires for women, right? See, just like any man, right? But my focus wasn't on most brothers and men. That's all they focus on. Getting women, females in bed. That was never my focus. And my focus was the truth, knowledge and understanding, wisdom. You understand? Anyway, therefore I will divide him a portion with the great. He shall divide the spoil with the strong, because he had poured out his soul until death. That's it. He poured his soul out to death. He gave it all. He didn't hold back nothing. He gave it all. Every breathing time, every breath was to get this information out. He gave it all. He poured his soul into death. He was numbered with the transgressors. They said, "Oh man, yeah, but and they condemned him." He said he was numbered with transgressors. Everybody thought he's a transgressor. Man, he ain't no Christian. He ain't with Jesus. He claimed he's Jesus or whatever. Right? He ain't with Elijah, Muhammad. He's a transgressor, man. He's just somebody trying to deceive people. See, that's what people said about him. But they said he poured his soul out to death. That's what produced this nation. That's what gave life to it. That's what gave birth. But the war's about to break. A nation's about to be born. But he said, pour his soul into death. See? And he bare the sin of many and made intercession for the transgressors. And he was, our people, I'm still defending my people, even though they hate me. That's what it says. He made intercession for the transgressors. Their transgression against me, they hate me. Their transgression against themselves, they hate me. Right? But I'm still standing for them. I'm standing for people that hate me. The whole nation, black folks hate me. I'm so over 17 million black people, they know me, they hate me. My own children hate me. Everybody hates me. Yes, that's what it says. But I'm still standing for them. You say, why do you keep standing with these people? I don't care. Because I love my people. I understand their condition. That's why it says, by his knowledge shall my righteous servant. Because I understand their condition. See, I know that's not who they are. I know because I understand that. So therefore I'm standing for them. Because what they've been through. This isn't how they are. Because it says, when you get to the promised land, it says, my people be restored and the knowledge of mine comes back to them. It said they're going to weep for days when they realize what I went through. They said they're going to weep for me for days. They said they're going to weep for days. They're uncontrollably. That's what it says they're going to do. Because they're not they're other than themselves right now. And I'm not going to turn against my people because they're other than themselves, because that's my job, to get them a thorough knowledge of themselves, turning back to themselves and getting back home. Because that's the promise, and I'm going to fulfill that part of the promise. And as from how much filling this part, I'm going to fill my part. That's who the Lamb is. I think that's it, brother and sister. Yeah, that's who. What's going on here? That's who the Lamb is, brothers and sisters. So read it. Yeah, I don't expect to turn any hearts or minds because of this presentation. I'm just letting you know. So those of you who are paying attention, so you can have something to work with. Because you're not asking questions. You just listen to Jeff O'Donnell, and J.D. Jakes, and Farrakhan, and Size, and all these clowns out here. They rip you off. Does that apply to the Lamb? So they said, well, that's Jesus 2,000 years ago. It wasn't Jesus 2,000 years ago. He was never in prison. See, that wasn't him 2,000 years ago. And plus, this is a person that's in this time right now because remember he's gonna get his people home. He's gonna so and it says he doesn't die. So this ain't 2,000 years ago. See, he suffered until near death. So it's happening right now. But I'm not gonna I'm not arguing anybody. I'm not trying to convince anybody. I'm just trying to put information out there, brothers and sisters. So that's the Lamb. That's what the Lamb is. See? And though you don't appreciate him right now, you don't respect him, he's saving your life. He's gonna get you home. And then you're gonna be very sorry for how you've been acting now. You're gonna be very sorry. He said you're gonna weep uncontrollably. That's what it says. The scripture says. I don't want that. I'm not looking for praise. I'm not looking for money. I just want to get you home, bro, sisters. Let me get off. I'm getting kind of like misty right here. I just want to get you home, bro, sisters. I'm illegal. I just want to get you home. That's all. Assalamu alaikum.